my parents. I think they're all breathing. They're on the floor. I can't find my sister. Please hurry.
And your parents
They're not moving.
are both been shot, have they?
I don't know. There's not a blood everywhere.
On the 10th of July 2001 at 11:48 p.m, Sef Gonzales frantically contacted emergency services to report that he had discovered the dead bodies of his parents and younger sister at their North Ryde home. He then ran outside, alerting neighbours that his parents had been shot. Ambulance and police crews quickly arrived and entered into a horrifying crime scene. Teddy Gonzales had suffered multiple stab wounds to his neck, chest, back and abdomen. One of the stab wounds penetrated his right lung, another penetrated his heart, and another partially severed his spinal cord. His wife, Mary, was stabbed in the neck, face, chest and abdomen. Her windpipe had been completely transected. Claudine, aged 18, was found in her bedroom with the cause of death being a combination of abdominal stab wounds, blunt force head injuries, and the compression of her neck. In addition to the bodies, police discovered the words "Fuck off Asians" spray painted on one of the walls inside the house. New South Wales police began investigating the murders and initially believed it to be a robbery gone wrong or a hate crime, as the Gonzales had no known enemies. Teddy was hard-working and had become a respected lawyer who ran a successful law firm dealing with immigration after moving his family to Australia from the Philippines after the 1990 Luzon earthquake had destroyed their home and newly built 40-room hotel. But due to the fact nothing of value was missing and no evidence of forced entry was found, investigators deemed a robbery attempt to be unlikely, which led them to look closer to home. In the days following the murders, Sef Gonzales had appeared on television asking for the killers to come forward. He would offer a reward of $100,000, demanding justice for what happened to his family. At the family funeral, Sef performed an a cappella version of the song "One Sweet Day."
Sorry, I never told you all I wanted to say. Now it's too late to hold you, 'cause you've flown away so far.
Authorities delved deep into the Gonzales family dynamics and learned that Teddy and Mary were controlling parents that enforced harsh discipline if their children had underperformed in their studies. They had particularly high expectations of Sef and were disappointed that he did not perform well in his HSC, even more so when their son withdrew after 2 years of studying medical science at university. Sef enrolled in law at Macquarie University, but was performing poorly in his courses and was facing expulsion. He attempted to cover up his failures by falsifying his grades, and whilst it got his parents off his back for a little while, his sister informed them of his deception, and they threatened to withdraw certain privileges, such as the use of his car. It was also discovered that Mary had disapproved of her son's girlfriend and threatened to disinherit him. Upon finding out that the Gonzales family wasn't as close-knit as originally believed, and with no leads elsewhere, investigators started to consider Sef as the prime suspect in his family's murders, and monitored his internet searches, phone calls, and had an undercover policeman befriend him. Days after the murders, Sef had inquired about his inheritance, which was estimated to be around $1.5 million. He had moved to an apartment in Chatswood, put a deposit on a $173,000 Lexus, and reportedly traded in his parents' vehicles and pawned his mother's jewelry. The investigation began heating up in December of 2001 after detectives managed to disprove Sef's first alibi. He had claimed he was in another suburb, but neighbours had sighted his car still in the driveway at the time the murders had taken place. Sef would clarify that he had taken a taxi to a brothel, but this would also be discredited by the taxi driver as well as the prostitute he said he was with. On June 13, 2002, after 11 months after the Gonzales family murders, Sef Gonzales would be arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder. He was denied access to his family's estate to fund his defence and sought legal aid for the murder trial, which would take place throughout April and May 2004. It was revealed that Sef had planned the murders for several months, and his original plan was to poison his family. The court was told that the 20-year-old used the search term methods of killing. Here he would find a website that gave instructions on how to mix poisonous beans in with food, and the way symptoms would set in to cause a slow and painful death. He placed orders for the beans from a site in the United States and a company in Byron Bay. In an attempt to cover his tracks, he had sent a threatening letter to a major food company, stating, "3 of your products have been poisoned. By now they're on supermarket shelves. This is what you get for treating employees like garbage. Good luck finding infected cans before someone dies." Although his mother had a brief spell in the hospital for suspected food poisoning, Sef's plan was a failure, so he decided to act on his far more brutal second option. On the 10th of July 2001, at around lunchtime, Sef went to his father's work to help fix a computer. He arrived at the family home at around 4:30 p.m. He took a baseball bat from his car and 2 knives from the kitchen. His younger sister Claudine, who he had described as the life of the family, was studying alone in her bedroom. First he attempted to strangle her, but when this failed he struck her at least 6 times in the head with the bat, before stabbing her multiple times. Next, at around 5:30 p.m, Sef attacked his mother, the heart of the family, in the living room with one of the knives, almost as soon as she stepped foot inside the house, inflicting multiple stab wounds. At 6 p.m, Sef's aunt visited the house of her son. She noticed movement inside the house, but it was dark and unusually quiet. She knocked on the door, but nobody answered. Deciding not to enter through the garage, the pair departed with no idea of what was happening inside. At 6:50 p.m, Teddy arrived home, and like his wife, was attacked almost immediately. Along with the multiple stab wounds, Teddy had also sustained defensive wounds, suggesting that he had struggled with Sef. 11 years earlier, after the earthquake, Teddy had rescued his son from the rubble of his hotel. Now he would be brutally murdered by him. The prosecutor would state this was not a professional killing. This was a slaughter by an angry amateur who wanted to make absolutely sure they were dead, but had no idea how many times he would need to stab them in order to cause death. After the murders, Sef showered and changed clothes before spray painting the hateful message on the wall in an attempt to fool investigators. He then drove to a friend's house, and the two went out to eat, as well as visit a video game arcade. After dropping his friend home, Sef returned to the scene and called emergency services. Several friends and family described Sef as having a narcissistic personality and would outright lie to impress people. He claimed he was a successful businessman and famous model and singer. He even created a website dedicated to himself under the name of a daughter of a family friend. He had made false claims that he was suffering from cancer and asked his godmother for money for the treatment. It was determined that Sef Gonzales had murdered his family because he was afraid that due to his poor academic performances, he would lose his car and other privileges. He also wanted to be the sole beneficiary of his parents' property. On the 17th of September 2004, Sef Gonzales was given 3 concurrent life sentences without parole. The judge would state, "I consider that the murders show features of very great heinousness, and that there are no facts mitigating the objective seriousness of the murders, and hence the murders fall within the worst category of cases of murder at common law." To this day, Sef Gonzales maintains his innocence.